Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. It seems silly to be upset over a mailbox, but I guess that some people just don't have anything else better to do. Silly me for thinking that I could try and outsmart the homeowners associations, I guess. You see, I am an art teacher for elementary kids, and I guess you could describe me as eccentric. I don't like boring, plain stuff. Normal stuff that blends in, I guess you can. I bet you're reading this and wondering why the hell I chose to live in homeowners associations then. Well, my husband has a nice paying job, much nicer than my teacher's salary, and I enjoy the area that we live in. Besides, the inside of my house is such an expression of who I am, and that is more important to me than the outside of my house. Maybe I was too entitled, thinking I could get away with a different colored mailbox. See, our old mailbox was so plain and white and boring. It had no personality to it. And well, to me, that's just not okay. So I did what any normal person would do. I decided to paint it a different color. I painted it a lightish pink color, almost had a beige tint to it. I then painted some leaves and flowers on the mailbox. Nothing too fancy, just very minimal small little paintings. I should have known better that our homeowners association's president was going to flip her lid when she saw it. In my defense, though, I did choose paint colors that were deemed acceptable. But of course, the homeowners associations always pushes the brown or black mailboxes. It was literally the next day when I found my mailbox destroyed. I was actually kind of sad. Now I knew that our homeowners association's president was pushy, aggressive, and annoying, but it never even once crossed my mind that she destroyed it. As a matter of fact, I thought maybe some hooligans broke into the neighborhood and were messing around. Until I noticed that everything else in the neighborhood was sound, and my mailbox was the only one that was broken. It looked like someone had hit it with a bat or was strong enough to knock it over. It was just on the ground laying on its side. I started wondering if there was a possibility that the homeowners associations had something to do with this. They hadn't given me a warning or anything, and if the president or any of the board members got caught vandalizing property, they could definitely get in trouble. Surely they wouldn't risk that. Well, I knew I was wrong with thinking that when I replaced the mailbox, this time with no paintings, it was just a solid light pink, when I got a note at my door suggesting that I replace it with a black one or a brown one. And then my suspicions were confirmed even further when the president knocked on my door, asking to speak to me about my mailbox. Homeowners associations. President, are you aware your mailbox is not in compliance? Me. Well, actually, I checked the guidelines and it doesn't say anything about light pink. As a matter of fact, it just says no bright or bold colors. Mine is a pretty soft pink, don't you think? Homeowners associations. Everyone else on your street has a black or brown mailbox. You're breaking the rules by not complying. Me. Then write me a fine instead of breaking my mailbox and harassing me at the door. And with that, I slammed the door shut in her face. Now, I knew that she wouldn't stop there. I even considered the possibility that she would destroy my mailbox again, even though I had no proof she was the one that destroyed it in the first place. So, I asked my husband to purchase and install a security camera that could sync with our phones. And guess what? My bright idea paid off because 3 days later, I never changed the mailbox this time, I got a notification that my camera picked up motion. And sure enough, there was our beloved Homeowners Association's president, on my camera, caught, destroying my mailbox with a metal baseball bat. I was so pissed. If I was really breaking the rules, why not just fine me like every other Homeowners Association's violation? Sure, I was pissed, and it was clear that this was turning into harassment, so I decided to replace my mailbox again. I figured that she was going to destroy it again, and then I would have multiple instances caught on video of her destroying the mailbox. This way I could turn her into the police. Except the third time, she made it pretty easy because multiple neighbors witnessed what happened next and called 911. She knocked on my door a couple of days after, and it went from 0 to 100 really quick. Homeowners associations? Prez, I see that you still haven't changed your mailbox. Are you sure you want to keep playing this game? Me. No one is playing a game except for you. And it's not a game. It's harassment. Leave me alone. Like I said, if I really am breaking a rule, then you should write me a fine. But you haven't, so I'm assuming that I'm not actually breaking any rules and you just want to be a bully. Homeowners associations. Wow, you're brave. Listen, all you have to do is change your mailbox and I'll leave you alone. Me. Leave me alone now or I'll report you to the Homeowners Associations Board and the police. Can't harass people if you're behind bars. Now, I was slightly joking because I'm pretty sure it's impossible to get imprisoned for verbal harassment and vandalism. I don't know. But either way, she didn't like this. As a matter of fact, she pulled a gun on me. And no, I'm not joking. She yanked a gun out of her waistband and pointed it at me before telling me that I would regret saying those words to her. I really thought she was going to shoot me, and I was so bewildered. And over a freaking mailbox. Well, she put the gun back in her waistband before trying to run off. However, neither she nor I noticed that several of our neighbors were outside, and two of them were watching. One of the neighbors blocked her path while the other called the police. Of course, now she starts panicking because she realizes that she's been caught. I'm not sure if she noticed the security camera either, but this meant that not only did I have footage of her vandalizing my mailbox, but I also had footage of her pointing a gun at me. And yep, this was enough to land her 3 years in jail. She would be eligible for parole after a year, but she was forbidden to go near me or even step foot in our neighborhood. This meant that not only was she not allowed to come back into the neighborhood after she got out of jail, but it meant that she couldn't serve in the homeowners associations. And not just our homeowners associations, she couldn't serve in any homeowners associations because she had been found guilty of a crime. And to think all this because of a mailbox. The next one is a pro-revenge story. So I am not sure if this belongs in pro-revenge since it wasn't planned on my part. It kind of just fell into my lap. Feels more than petty, so here I am. For a bit of background, my next-door neighbor was a college student. She lives with our actual neighbor, her boyfriend. Typical crazy college kid, weekend parties, drinking on her patio at all hours of the night and weird hours. You know the drill. I figured she was trying to experience college life, so why not? You do you, lady. Anyway, one summer night last year, she was sitting out on her back patio with her girlfriends doing their drunk thing. I am out wrapping up some stuff with my toddler daughter. At the time, she had a medical issue going on that caused her to walk a little weird. Nothing life-altering and something that would heal with time. She did have a wobble to her, especially when running. Sometimes she would fall right over. She was out running around with the dog, and the ladies next door were waving and telling her how cute she was. All good. We go back inside, and I hand her off real quick to the husband. I want to go to the bedroom real fast to change the sheets for later bed. I hurry up. Now, to set the scene, my bedroom is the closest to the patio next door. The windows are open because it gets super hot in there, even with AC during the day, and the lights are off. I can do this by the light of the hallway, I figure. I can clearly hear what they are talking about next door. Do you see the way she was walking? What a little retard. My little retard, my little retard. Sung to the cheerful tune of My Little Pony, I guess because that was what my kid had been wearing. This was followed by sounds I suppose my neighbor felt a mentally challenged child would make, and uproarious laughter. No, you, ducking, did not. They didn't realize anyone could hear them, but I had the lights flipped on and was at the window and shouting in record time. Stay right there, you idiots! Ducking dead silence as they realized someone heard them. I come flying down the stairs where I am intercepted by my husband, who has no idea what the screaming was about. At this point, I am so mad that I just burst out into tears when telling him. We both decide it would be better to wait to confront until tomorrow. Everyone next door is wasted, and there is no way of telling just how many people she has over. Besides, when we looked outside, it seems like they have packed it in for the night. Not long after this, we all go to bed. My husband was outside having a last smoke before sleep. Next-door idiot had sent her boyfriend out to put the fire pit out. Guess she was too chicken crap to do it herself, as she usually would. My husband and he were talking. Boyfriend. That got crazy earlier, huh? Husband. Well, your girlfriend did make fun of a child. So understanding that as her parents we are upset shouldn't be too hard. Boyfriend. Ah man, you know how girls that age. My neighbor happens to date much younger women. No judgment, but it's not a defense for how they acted. Are when they are drinking. They say crap and don't mean it. All little girls are like that when drunk. Husband. I've drunk with a lot of women and have never heard of one of them making fun of a kid behind their back. A 2-year-old no less. So yeah, that excuse doesn't fly with me. Boyfriend. Look, dude, I don't want any drama. Just ducking, let it go. Husband. Sure, just let your girlfriend know we are waiting for her heartfelt apology. Boyfriend. Whatever. Needless to say, the boyfriend is going with whatever keeps getting him that sweet drunk pussy. Not a drop of compassion, even though he is a nurse. Ducking awesome. Hope you don't work in the children's ward, a-hole. Husband came in after that. I waited for a week to confront her about it because I thought that what she did was so shameless that she would surely feel bad. Nope. I happened to be outside one day watering when she was coming back from wherever. Gave her the stare down. All she could muster was, "Got a problem, idiot? Do something about it," before making her way inside. The revenge turns out that little Miss My Crap Doesn't Stink wanted to be a policewoman in our town. How do I know? They sent a letter to people on our street to get their opinion before accepting her into their program. Just a standard questionnaire asking about our dear neighbor friend. Do you have an opinion on why or why not your neighbor would not make a good officer of the law? Why, yes. Yes, I do. I wrote a ducking essay, you guys, complete with photos of her lovely patio covered in cans and bottles from the night before. Their dogs having to sit outside in the pouring rain all day. I guess animal control is too busy around here for that. How do you feel about someone on your force that makes fun of kids with handicaps? Who could possibly show up to work drunk? I sent it back and just forgot about it. It was petty, yes, but felt so good. I say this because last night I heard her crying to one of her buddies about how she couldn't seem to break into the local police force, which had been the whole reason she had pursued her major in college. She isn't sure what to do now. Now, I am not sure if my letter did it. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I am not sure if they tell you why you aren't being considered, other than you are not. In that moment, though, I felt vindicated. Duck you, you soulless idiot. Hope those jokes at my kids' expense were worth it. The next one is a petty revenge story. So this story takes place in the mid-2000s when I was in secondary school, which is basically high school for you Yankee Doodle dandies. I was 13 and going through that awkward stage in life where everything is constantly changing. One thing that was changing was the amount of gas my body created after a particularly long series of curries and chilies that my family made regularly, as they were cheap and easy meals to cook. Plus, despite being as English as Paddington Bear, we loved spicy food. The story takes place during a series of French classes where I had a showdown with a very petty French teacher whom we'll call Mrs. F. She regularly put kids in detention for everything, and while some of it was justified, like talking in class or not doing homework, she decided that because I occasionally farted in class, despite being a half-decent student who was courteous and polite, it was enough to put me in detention if someone smelled it and made a fuss. I tried everything to avoid this woman's wrath, from sitting at the back of the class near an open window to asking my parents if I could have something less likely to cause flatulence. However, despite my efforts, I kept receiving detention without any obvious disciplinary issues. The school wasn't obligated to inform parents why I received detention, and the teacher didn't want to share, I think. For a while I kept it hidden since both of my parents worked until I got home anyway, and I generally thought they couldn't do anything about it. That changed when I was put into after-school detention on my 14th birthday. Now, my parents always made a fuss about my birthdays since it was close to Christmas, and they knew I liked having a day when I could choose anything for dinner and do whatever I wanted all night long. This detention was scheduled to last for 2 hours, so there was no way I would be getting home before my mom and dad, and they were furious when they found out that I had been losing break times, lunch times, and hours of my home life to this woman's insanity in her efforts to get me to stop farting. My dad, who was home after my mom every day, asked my brother where my mom and I were, as my mother had come to get me after calling the school to find out I was in after-school detention. She had planned to take us all out for a paid reservation at an Italian restaurant since my favorite food is and always has been lasagna. While my dad was frantically trying to change the reservation or get the money back to no avail, my mom was picking me up. When she found out that my dad had failed to get the money back or change the time, she wasn't happy. However, she was furious when she found out everything about why I was in detention and how much time I had spent in it. Keep in mind that until this point, I had disguised my after-school detentions as extra work for school projects, so I was regularly just given bus money and told it was fine. This time, though, I thought I'd try getting my French teacher to be nice since it was my birthday, but there was no chance. The following day, after my birthday, my mom took the day off work, and I was called into the school office to have a sit-down with my French teacher and the headmistress. My mom let me speak first, and I innocently asked my mom if I was trying not to disturb anyone, but sometimes it just happens. The headmistress asked Mrs. F what compelled her to think that flatulence in class was worth so much punishment, to which she replied that I needed to learn to control myself. My mom then went on about how much money the family had spent getting me home from school because I couldn't take the 3 o'clock bus that my bus pass covered. They had to spend close to £15 a week to get me home. She also mentioned the cost of her workday that she had to take off and the reservation they lost on my birthday. Then she did something I didn't see coming. She pulled out a pile of bus tickets, receipts, and a pay stub from work to demonstrate the costs she had incurred. And she asked, "So is the school paying me for all this, or are you? Because I'm holding both responsible for the cost." In total, between the bus tickets, lost reservation, and pay for the day, it was about £250. Mrs. F then boldly stated, "I'll discipline your child until he learns that he will not disturb the class with his disgusting body." I shrunk a little at this statement, but then my headmistress said something I'll never forget. She said, "Don't worry about these costs. Mrs. F will be paying for them in full out of her pocket before you leave today if she wants to keep her job. It's clear to me that your child is not being a bad kid, just a little bit gassy. Mrs. F, if you wish to put any child in detention from now on, I'll be reviewing it before approving the detention, as it is clear that you are abusing your power as a teacher. Now pay this lady her money and get back to work." With that, Mrs. F was fuming and agreed to pay my mother out of her paycheck. The school office handed the money over to my mother, who proceeded to spend it on extra Christmas presents for me and my older brother that year. Oh, and as for my mom's petty revenge, she told me to sit in front of Mrs. F's desk and regularly fed me anything that would make me pass gas, leaving her unable to punish me again. The next one is an entitled people story. My husband's youngest brother, Jim, recently married in June to his girlfriend of 6 years, Kathy. They had a long engagement of 2 years because there was a 6-year gap, and my in-laws were worried about Kathy's lack of maturity. I have been with my husband, Tim, for 14 years. We have 2 kids, a 13-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl. Both kids love Kathy and Jim. Once they got engaged, I offered to help with whatever they needed for the wedding out of kindness. I was thinking more along the lines of helping with DIY projects, etc. Since Kathy and Jim had a low budget for the wedding, I thought maybe my husband and I could give them something really nice for their house. She and my mother-in-law called me in May and asked for my son, daughter, and husband to be in the wedding party. No big deal, except they had to wear a specific color. I was irritated because getting this color from David's Bridal was going to be expensive. Thankfully, I found a flower girl's dress from Amazon that was almost the same color. The ties were exclusive to DB, so we paid an extra $30 to get them in 5 weeks. During the call, she also mentioned that my husband and I should pay for their honeymoon since we could easily afford it, and we wouldn't have to get them another gift. Naturally, I asked, "Where do you plan on going for your honeymoon?" She said Sandals Resorts. I had heard of these resorts, seen the commercials, and knew in my gut that it was going to be very expensive. So I asked her how much a Sandals resort would cost. She said $5,600. She went on about how much it would cement their union, how Jim needed a break from work, and again, how we could afford it. I had an out-of-body experience. I laughed like a hyena, hysterically, while she remained silent on the phone. Realizing she was serious, I told her absolutely not. We would not be funding her entire honeymoon. Heck, my hubby and I never had a honeymoon like that. She proceeded to cry and said I was going to ruin her vision for her wedding, that I didn't care about her, and then hung up. I told my husband later to call his brother and ask him what the hell was going on. He just said Kathy was planning everything, so he didn't know what was happening. The day before the wedding was a nightmare as well. On the day of the wedding, my kids ended up getting chiggers from being out in the random woods. She yelled at those who didn't contribute to her honeymoon fund, and her kid sister ate 26 out of the 45 cupcakes for the reception. And to top it all off, her photographer lost her wedding photos. The next one is an entitled parent story. So back in high school, one of my closest friends got pregnant and gave birth to the sweetest baby boy. She stopped going to school for a while to take care of her kid, but still did online school so she could graduate with her class. One thing we would do is go to one of the local food places near the high school on Fridays, and today we decided to go to this nice Chinese place that I frequent regularly, and the little old Asian lady knows me by name. This Chinese place has a sticker on the front door that says something like, "Breastfeeding will always be allowed," which is great since that's what my friend is more comfortable doing for her baby. After we ordered our food and hung out in this little waiting area, the baby gets all fussy. She takes out the little cover and covers her baby and her chest as she starts to feed him. We keep talking until this woman and her son, who had to be around 10, come in. I recognize the kid as one of the kids I looked after when I used to volunteer at a youth center. He comes up to me and starts talking to me, and then asks my friend what she's doing with the baby. Before my friend could answer, the boy's mother cuts in. "A disgusting thing is what she's doing. Don't you know better than to do that in public? And why are you even doing that if you're only a kid? My friend has an attitude sometimes, so I try to jump in before she would start to throw things. It's not illegal, and Mrs. L is fine with it. She has a sticker on the door. Mrs. L being the little old Asian lady by the counter who was just ogling the baby a second ago. She smiles at us and continues to write some stuff down. The mother wasn't happy about this and continues with her BS. I'm sorry, but I'm just not okay with a baby breastfeeding another baby. Can you please just stop? She says in frustration. Mrs. L finally cuts in, and in her broken English she says, Nursing a baby is a beautiful thing. You have a problem, you leave. She then taps the order on the window that leads to the kitchen and apologizes to my friend for the woman's nasty behavior. She then looks at the boy who is still next to me and says jokingly, Your mother, she dummy, right? This makes the boy laugh, and the mother just grumbles in her seat, trying to stay as far from us as she could. When my friend finished and we grabbed our food, Mrs. L threw in an extra order of eggs rolled, since they were my friend's favorite. Everything was fine until Monday came, and I saw the boy again. He pulls me off to the side and tells me that his mom said she doesn't like me or my friend. I just ask him if he still likes me, and he says yes. Yay! Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.